Hi everyone. I just wanted to record a quick video talking about Scott on Fire throughout 2025, give a nice round out to the year, and also talk about what's in store for 2026. So, you've probably noticed things have been quiet over the last couple of months. I feel since finishing the third journey, my philosophy of action, which I've written about quite a lot over on my blog, since finishing that in the first half of last year, my content has definitely sort of slowed down. And I think that's been good. It's given me a lot of time to think, and I'm finding myself a little bit stuck on how to bring it out, so to speak. But I do have a lot of things to talk about, and I'll be sharing some of those shortly. In the second half of 2026, I attended two personal finance related retreats. There was, of course, the FI Freedom Retreat in September, as well as TribeFi in Sydney in November 2025. I made a video about FI Freedom and my thoughts on that. I'll link that somewhere on the screen if you'd like to check that out. I haven't made a video about TribeFi yet, but I'll do so in the coming weeks, definitely. One thing that became clear to me from talking with lots of people at these retreats is that video and audio content is definitely what people are consuming more of nowadays. There's a little bit less on the blog side. It might be in a post here and there, but I think a lot of people's attentions and content consumption habits are definitely leaning more towards video. So that's something I'm going to experiment more with in 2026. So if you have any ideas for videos, feel free to let me know. The last few articles I've written on my blog have been deeper and more complicated than the previous ones. I feel like my articles have become grander in scope, and I think it may be best to either slow down the writing or potentially write smaller articles and condense them down to more singular topics instead of trying to branch a few things together all at once. But I'll be experimenting with that in 2026 and see if shorter articles suit the writing style that I want to go for, as well as communicating the ideas that I want to share. And I do want to make it clear that I don't really write on my blog for other people. It's a public blog. I encourage you to read things if you like them, but ultimately it is something that I have done for myself. And especially over the last few months, it's been more difficult to do that because I feel like I've been holding myself to a higher and higher standard, even though I'm the only one who I'm really beholden to create something. And of course, when you're stopping yourself from writing because it needs to be a certain way, it tends to limit what you actually output. And that's something that's happened on the blog as well. But I also want to talk about something that has affected my content and the things I've been thinking about over the last probably 6 months, especially. And that is the idea of being like a FIRE or personal finance content creator. I do feel as though I have a lot of thoughts about personal finance. I do enjoy talking about it to a certain extent, but I don't know if I necessarily want to be known as like a personal finance or fire guy, if that makes sense. I want to showcase that you can use personal finance as one tool in your arsenal to build the life you want, but ultimately you need to be drawing inspiration from lots of other places. And for me, that's history, it's philosophy, and more recently, esoteric topics like alchemy. And I think when you combine all of these things together, you get a merging of all of these ideas in a way that nobody else has done. And I think that's really cool. And it's something that I want to be exploring in my writing more. And that doesn't mean to say that I'm turning my back on any of the personal finance stuff. I think it's an essential part of living in the modern day. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is that I want to focus more on that holistic living in the modern day aspect rather than just a small piece of that, which is the personal finance and, say, fire aspect of it. The very last thing I wanted to mention is that in the new year, I'm also going back to work. I'm not fired. I do need to go back and get a job every now and again. But ultimately, I do that on my terms. I am in a position where it is very easy for me to find work when and where I need it. And it also gives me the freedom to think about my own ideas and develop my own philosophy and live life the way I want to. So ultimately, that is why I've done what I've done and why I continue doing it. So I didn't want this to be a big hurrah. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to share sort of where I'm coming at things from the end of 2025 and what things will look like in 2026. And whether you've met me at one of the meetups in Melbourne or at one of the larger meetups elsewhere in the world, feel free to continue checking in and see what I'm up to. And hopefully, some of the things I talk about are relevant to you as well. So that's all I have for this one. And like and subscribe to stay in touch, or just send me a comment or a nice message. It means a lot to hear from everybody. And yeah, I hope to speak to you soon.